This is the Khoodeelaar television channel being broadcast on the internet, only on the internet, not on satellite, not on terrestrial, not on cable platforms. This particular edition, timed at 1930 hours GMT on Thursday, 16th of January 2025, is actually dedicated to a real time, really engaged report, world exclusive report on what has been going on in the United Kingdom, especially in the context of the crisis in care. Now, I have got in front of me an English, that is England based local borough council, and they are adult social services circulating a survey questionnaire called 2024-2025 Adult Social Care Survey. This survey is being carried out by the Adult Social Care on behalf of NHS England. And it says to the recipient, we want to give the opportunity to participate in the survey to as many people as possible. This might, and then it says improving adult social care in your area, etc., etc. Now, I can start with the confrontation, obstruction, insult, contemptuous, callous provocation perpetrated to callers to a London general medical practice reception. This is something that forms part of the evidence of the callous, festering defiance by the GP practice administration personnel of the requirements of the 2014 CARE Act and the Equality Act and other non-discriminatory legislation in the statute book in the United Kingdom as I speak on the 16th of January 2025. So here is an empirically authentic reproduction of the interaction on the telephone to which a call was made to the GP practice, to which a call was made within the last 2 hours. The answer by the person who answers the phone is offensively insulting, disrespectful, persistently so. And this is something that has been raised with the General Medical Practice Council member practice, General Medical Council member practice based in London over the last relevant period. But it has been revealed by the practice that they are paying scant attention, if any attention, to the requirements of the Freedom of Information Act or the requirements made on them, to them, by the current legal regime under the framework of the General data protection practice or general data protection rights or GDPR. This same practice has perpetrated denials when asked to provide subject access requested materials to patients registered with it. When you make the call to the particular general medical practice number, there is a waiting time, and in the waiting time, there is a string of announcements. The first significant announcement is pronounced with aggressive tone, telling the caller that the practice does not tolerate insulting, aggressive behavior towards their staff. It doesn't say anything about the staff being hostile, confrontational, offensive, incompetent, prejudiced, biased, uncaring, confrontational, obstructive. And it has not outlined in the relevant period that I have examined their behavior, the repercussions, the impact of the bad behavior by their staff on the health and well-being of the registered patients. For example, when a patient is in a meeting or having an appointment with a GP, the patient doesn't have any control of or knowledge of what the GP is writing on their computer file about the meeting. So, for example, later, when the patient calls the practice seeking an appointment with the same GP, they are asked what the subject of the proposed appointment would be. And the patient answers to follow up the last meeting. And the person answering the phone tells the caller that the GP has not made any reference to follow up. And the patient calling says, that is what was discussed. I cannot say what the GP wrote in their notes, but I can confirm that the discussion included a follow-up because the items that needed to be discussed and covered in the appointment were not completed or not completely discussed. And there was a clear suggestion that there would be a follow-up, if not more than one follow-up, and so on. The other thing is that the GP practice, instead of giving the copy of the SAR requested documents and material and data, plainly resorted to plain lying, saying that it doesn't keep the data and the evidence of contacts between patients and the practice for more than a certain period. But there is no evidence anywhere within the practice of any notice whatsoever about what the practice is doing with its legal requirements, legal duties under the CARE Act and under the relevant general medical practice legislation. So the survey that is being conducted by the relevant local council for the NHS England is not going to be a conclusive, accurate truthful survey, because most of the information that is needed about the behavior of the practices or of the social services, various teams of the social services that are kept at increasingly highly paid kind of costs or highly paying costs to the local, through the local council to the public. So the existing law and legal requirements and legal obligations are being neglected, ignored, overlooked, violated, breached by the local councils as well as by the local general practices and their personnel. There is no review, there is no report, and absolutely no access to any procedure that the GP practice of the local council, social service, or services, or other so-called services conduct any investigation into complaints that are sent by ordinary people about various day-to-day issues about which they make contacts with the council or with the GP practice, relevant issues, aspects of healthcare, well-being, etc. There is no notice whatsoever about either the GP practices or the local social service departments or sections or units or teams of what action, if any, the local council or the GP practice ever does, carries out, conducts about the complaints that ordinary people denied due service, respectful service, submit in good faith, believing the promise that is published by the council or the GP practice that they would consider properly all complaints. Of course, I'm implying, interpreting, because there is nothing, there is no notice found anywhere in the GP practice waiting room or in the social services or on the website or the council's internet portals as to what exactly does the council do with the complaints that it receives. If you look at the reference numbers that appear when a particular individual makes a complaint to the local council, the serial numbers of the reference numbers keep increasing by about 100 or so every day, if not more, by which indication or occurrence it is to be concluded that every local council receives every week at least 500, if not more, complaints from local residents against the behavior of council employees, especially including the various social service teams. The behavior of one social service person that has been updated this week in London included routine denials of everything that the particular individual who is covered by the social service care obligations and care commitments. Everything the individual says to the social service person is denied point blank by the social service individual. And in the interaction, There is nobody else, no other third party present when the interaction is happening face to face, or there is no knowledge on the part of the complaining resident that anybody else is engaged directly in real time, engaged in observing, witnessing in real time the interaction that is taking place between themselves and the individual social service person. And this is extrapolated to include the behavior of the reception staff at the GP practice, repeatedly described as fish market attitude displayed by the GP practice personnel. So this is the very brief highlight of what is going on in social service care, and the news headings, including in the Guardian, about the social care service being reviewed or the review being delayed, etc., as has been reported by the Daily Telegraph, for example, is a tip of the iceberg. It is not possible to see even 1% of the absolutely dreadful lack of care that is being imposed and foisted on the people who are supposedly receiving care. And then you introduce the element of the money. The public money is described always as being in the sums of billions of pounds being spent in providing care to the people. That's a lie. Because most of the money, absolutely majority, the overwhelming, vast majority of the sum that is described as being spent on providing care is actually spent on filling the pockets of the employees in the social service section department. Extrapolate that and apply that to the GP practices. This topic will be, of course, updated in due course. This one is being ended at 18 minutes plus the length of the video broadcast, just over 18 minutes at 1941 hours GMT on Thursday, the 16th of January 2025.